All right. And just like that, we're live again. I start chatting in the live stream chat, and pretty soon it's time to go. I'm actually 20 seconds early, but let's see. What do we ask some questions? We're going to answer them. I was thinking about making a topic for the live stream, and then I kind of had this epiphany that doing that only makes my job harder. And because then I'm like, well, now I need to think of a topic to make a video on. And then so often I see the live streams that I've done a topic on, and I'm like, dang it, I kind of wish that was just like a 10-minute video with distilled information instead of uh, this long live stream that everyone's going to nope out of. Nope, not watching 2 hours of that. We're not doing that around here. So, one thing I want to talk about, it's kind of a common theme because I think, the current day climate makes you think about money a lot. I keep seeing people like trying to buy uh, like cheap substrates, and I've been through this before, by the way. As in, I was a new hobby at one point, or a new hobbyist at one point, and I did that. And the wisdom I want to try to impart upon people, as someone who just removed 500 or 600 pounds from the 800 gallon again and swapped to a different substrate, is put your tanks together not based on the price you're going to get into them for, but on what's going to give you something that you really enjoy. And so, most people will be like, that's what I'm doing. And sure, that's what you're doing. But there's like 20% of people out there that are like, but what's the cheapest possible substrate? You'll get it from, can I use this kitty litter? Can I use it from this thing? Can I use it from Hobby Lobby? Can I get it off the side of the road? And the answer is like, yeah, pretty much anything will work. Rocks are kind of rocks. There are some gotchas out there, but I think we're thinking about it wrong in that treat it like you've got to live with it for a long time. If you got to choose carpet for your living room, maybe you don't buy the cheapest thing you can find that, was at the store. Instead, maybe go like, what are you going to like? You don't have to buy expensive, but everybody's got a budget, and so maybe you got to go, yeah, for substrate with this, like let's say it's 150 gallon tank. Maybe you got 150 gallon. You might go, okay, I've got a budget of $100 for substrate. That's still a sizable amount to work with. Instead of like, well, how cheap could I do it? Well, I can get it done for $30 if I do it this way. Like I'm only buying sandblasting sand, or I'm only buying kitty play sand, or I'm only buying something from Tractor Supply. The problem is with the whole project, it'll cost so much more than just that $100 or that $30 that each piece cheapens the next one. And so that's actually why I had to swap out my 800 gallon. Was the the brown gravel I had, which I personally love, didn't work well with the brown background and brown decor, and so I had to make some changes, even though it costs money, and that's a bummer. Um, so I just want to put that out there, is like, your aquariums should cost you money, uh, and you should invest in them because they're long term hobbies, and you keep the things for a long time. But make sure it's what you want. And I'm sure some people read into this go like, of course you got to say, you got to tell people to buy stuff. Like, I'm telling you to enjoy it, and I think you get more enjoyment when you're like, yeah, I really wish I wouldn't have bought the special at dinner, and I just would have bought my normal because it was $2 more. Like, I know that's what I would have liked. And that's what I'm saying is like, hey, just pay the little bit extra if that's what you want. And Bill says play sand's been working for me. I've never said it doesn't work. I'm just saying make sure it's what you want. And for me, like, play sand will work. I guarantee you it's not even the coolest sand. There are so many cool sands out there. My favorite is actually called Ivory Coast. That's my absolute favorite sand out there. And so if I was going to set this up as like an African cichlid tank or something tomorrow, let's say it was going to be Shelley's and other Tanganyikans, I would use Ivory Coast. Now, any other sand would work, no doubt. And we're clearly focusing on substrates here because that was the talk a little bit earlier. But this goes for anything, whether it's filtration, whether it's food and fertilizer, and just make sure you're getting what you want, because you being happy is what this hobby is about. Some people don't realize that, but You know, when you're getting bored, make changes, do these things, make sure you're having fun. And sometimes it's okay to be like, hey, I thought I was going to love the steak tonight. Oof, wasn't that good? Next time, I'm getting the burger, right? Because might be your first aquarium. You don't know that or everything you read says use sand, and then you use it and you don't like it, or everything you read says use dirt, and you do love it. Great, set the next one up that way. But the main thing I wanted to pass along there was don't don't go into it with what is the cheapest, because you're unlikely if you go to the restaurant and you just look what's the cheapest possible thing I can order, you're unlikely to get the best result. Now that lines up sometimes. Maybe the cheapest thing on the menu is the best thing and the thing you will love the most. But giving yourself a budget to go, hey, I've got $20 to spend on dinner is a lot different than like, yep, I can get, looks like right here, I can get chips and salsa for $4.25. That's what I'll eat tonight. And so don't limit, because that's one meal. But your aquarium, that's might be 5 years of like, yeah, that was a bad decision. Should have spent $12, got the right gravel, or it's obviously scales differently, but yeah. Let's see here. Home Depot number 20 sand has worked great for me. Yeah, you couldn't pay me enough to use sand, by the way. Like, definitely different strokes for different folks. You could literally be like, we will give you free substrate and we will pay you to put it in there. And I'd be like, no, I just won't enjoy it. I don't like it. Nope, not doing it. So, yeah, there's definitely preferences out there. Ivory Coast sand is out of stock. It's always out of stock anyway. We can barely keep it in the store. Like, wholesalers, I've maintained this, and I am a wholesaler now, and I still maintain this. Wholesalers should just not exist. Or they're not, it's not that they should not, they're not going to, because all the wholesalers we buy from aren't doing their jobs, and you don't need it anymore. Like, if you had a delivery service for milk, let's say, I'm trying to think of a delivery service you'd have to rely on. Let's say you've got some service, we'll call it milk service, which nobody has anymore. I mean, some people do, but, and you're like, all right, I will stop buying milk from the store. We have a delivery service. If they didn't deliver the milk 50% of the time, you would just stop using them. You're like, I can't go 2 weeks without milk, then have milk, then not have milk for 3 weeks, then have milk for 5 weeks in a row. Like, it just wouldn't be sustainable in your household. And that's what wholesalers are running into a ton right now. Like, and I'll be the first to admit, like, you're out of brine shrimp eggs, bro. Like, yes, we are out of one product. But, we are deep on many of our products where when we go to buy, it's like, oh, we really need this. They have two. Like, okay, what's the forecast say we need? For 90 days, 6,040 of them. Two is slightly less than that. And then you send them an email, and they're like, oh, yeah, no idea when we get more. That's a bummer. So, that's, yeah, Ivory Coast sand probably already out of stock anyway. Sand seems easier than gravel planting wise. It can be. In my opinion, it's harder to grow plants. Like, kind of a catch-22. Like, it's so easy. Look at them holding it down, and then it's like it's holding them down so well they're not growing very well. Oh, good. Let's see here. Driving home from to Linwood from Canada. I never caught a live stream, and this one is fun. Well, you got some time ahead of you. Might have a little bit of snow in your commute. It snowed a little bit, like maybe an inch yesterday morning before I even woke up, and then we saw like one flurry last night, and that's it. Where Bob's got a ton. Dean sent me a video of, man, he's getting snowed in, and I picked and put my place in the worst place possible to avoid snow, apparently, because I love it. So if what's the like the Charlie Brown character's always got a cloud over him. I'm that, except it's like a force field that keeps away snow. So yeah, I got the wrong cloud over me. How do I know when my guppy will give birth? There's no real way to know outside of looking at physical size and um, and knowing like maybe when it gave birth last. On average, every 30 to 35 days for live bears, somewhere in there. And so you can kind of go like, yeah, well, I know it's been at least 2 weeks. So like, okay, it's within the next 2 weeks. And then as you keep them more, you'll be like, oh, wow, she's looking really big compared to normal versus like, yeah, it just looks pregnant, but like, oh, wow, that's pretty big. And that's not scientific in any means, but that's what everybody does. So I'm going to change my camera a little bit here. I feel like I'm trying to do so with my hands, and I'm like, oh, they're barely on screen. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit. All right, I'll try that. I've seen you talk about bladderwort a lot recently. Any trick for getting rid of it off plants straight from the wholesaler? I hadn't seen that too much, but I don't have any tricks besides manual removal yet. I'm gonna test when I move rosy barbs to that tank to eat some of the algae. I suspect. So what normally happens? Fish that will like tear off algae and things like that. A lot of times they'll tear anything off and be like, let me get a taste of that. You know, think of it like a puppy pulling at stuff, right? And then if it goes in its mouth, it tries to chew it up, and then maybe it's going to swallow it. That's kind of what a lot of these, you know, like rosy barbs and Siamese algae eaters and flagfish and stuff like that. That's kind of what they do. I mean, it's what Oscars and most cichlids are doing too, where they just like tear it off, they chew it, and they're like, no, I actually don't want to swallow it, to spit it back out. But there's potentially a way to do that with the bladderwort of just maybe they will, because it's so delicate. If you've never had the bladderwort before, like you just barely pull it, breaks apart, which is what makes it so frustrating. You see this long stem of it, and you go like, I'm gonna pull that out as it breaks off in 3 pieces, and 2 go this way, and you're like, no. So that's why it takes so long to get rid of it. Is it takes a lot of, come on, get out of here. Let's see here. Some gifted subs from Fish Tank Barn and Zen Corey Cats. Thank you very much, both of you. And welcome to the club, DRSFPV. Yes. I released a little walk around with what I've been changing here in the fish room. Still not ready to do the big reveal or whatever we want to call that yet. So kind of waiting and still putting stuff together. I hydrated my table over here. It is slightly more hydrated than last week. I used some feed and wax to do that. I need to do the actual desk I'm on right now, but getting her all ready. My GH is high, but my KH is really low. If I add crushed coral, how long does it take to buffer? And will this keep my pH where it is or increase it? Typically, crushed coral, it dissolves in water slowly. The more acidic your water is, the faster it dissolves. The less minerals it has, the faster it dissolves. But it slows down. So what I would say is, yes, add some crushed coral. And depending on how often you change the water is where the ceiling is going to be for that pH. For me, it kind of never really got more than like 7.2-ish, but my water was starting at like 6.5, 6.7-ish. And it also is going to depend on how much and what method. Like in a filter, it's going to dissolve much faster than in the gravel. If you sprinkle it in the gravel, it's a slower dissolving thing, especially if you kind of gravel vac it in so it stirs in. You'll get much longer, slower release, which is my preferred way, but I would say, do what you need to do. My trout goodeids keep the algae trimmed down and the dwarf lily from sending up pads. Yes, they're also a kind of a grabber and a shaker. And if I had some trout goodeids, I might also try those. But I've kind of changed modes in, with the big group of hobbyists we have around. I keep trying to like let's steer a direction and go, okay, so we know that like I have proof of video and I think you guys believe me that like rosy barbs will eat algae. They're kind of amazing, right? I think we could do the same project of like what will eat bladderwort. Something out there has to eat it. And the more people we kind of go, hey, I had that once and this ate it, and then we try it, the more likely we are to go, oh, we verified it on video 5 times. Like, wow, everybody's got it. And then everybody now just knows this is a thing we can keep to use for this thing. Like, I still am shocked that nerite snails will eat blue-green algae. Like, it still blows my mind. Like, yes, green spot algae, but they will literally eat on that bacterial blue-green algae. So, and some people seem to have kind of known that for many, many years. I only found out like a couple years ago going, wait, really? And then I tried it in my own tanks and I saw it happening. It's like, I had a correlation about like, oh, well, I don't seem to grow blue-green algae in tanks where I have nerite snails, but I never had the experience of, let me put this thing in there to fix it. And so it was just, I wasn't even on the radar. And so I think the more projects we can, not projects, but the more research or crowdsourcing we can do, the more likely we are to discover, hey, this fish fixes this problem. Isn't that super cool? What do you do if your tank has 0 kH? You run crushed coral. My water had no kH for most of my career, actually. Out of the tap, TDS was anywhere from 15 to 23, so like nothing in my water at all. And so running crushed coral mixed into the substrate was good for even stuff that just wanted soft water, soft acidic water. But if you had like guppies and livebearers and cichlids, you could run all crushed coral as your substrate, and that would really buffer it up for quite a long time. Let's see. Do you have a container filter as well as the sponge filter in the tank behind me? This does not have a sponge filter. It actually only has a canister filter with a sponge intake. If Chihiro's ever sends me the rest of my stuff, I'm going to change that around a little bit. I think I've got a part right here. Let me find it. Is it in this top one? Oh, gosh. Here we go. So I want to play around with this output, and then I'm supposed to have an intake coming. I want to play around just to see if I like the visuals of it, and then at the same time that I'm plumbing these in, I want to try plumbing in this inline, which is it's a cool thing, this inline doser. So you connect the dosing pump, which is right above my head, right there. You put the hose to this, and it goes inline the canister filter. Kind of cool. Big bummer. The little nozzles are tiny, so I got to get like an adapter to go to like 1/8 inch tubing. But yeah, some of the stuff I'm planning to just play with and experiment for you guys. Well, for me and you guys. So that way you go, hey, was that thing cool? Like, nah, that's kind of $40 waste. Or like, yeah, that thing's real good for $40. And so I'll let you know because, yeah, that's kind of my job. The perfect water for Gardenia shrimp? Kind of was, yeah. I like live bears more than I like Gardenia shrimp. And I'm fine with Neogardenia shrimp. So all the cherry line, super easy, not finicky. I prefer that. So, there'll always be a bias in what I prefer because when I make too many of it, I like to sell it at my store. And like the store has pretty good water for crystal shrimp and stuff, but most people buy it and they just throw it into their tank and hope for the best, and then they're outraged when they're like, but I just killed $70 in like 2 days. Like, yeah, you didn't do your homework. Like, but you're gonna make that right? Like, no, we literally told you. So we don't sell them, but we're considering if we get enough like neon flashing warning signs and like make you sign a term of service agreement of like, have you done any reasonable research on these animals before you buy them? And we're not held responsible. Not that they're crazy difficult, but you know, there's already people. My Oscar ate my shrimp. Like, yeah, you think? Uh huh. So, yeah, Chihiro's has the worst shipping on the planet. I the original lights I bought took over 2 weeks to get here. The order that I placed the second day, right? So I placed that order. It took uh one more day. So that was okay. Uh when the lights for the 800 gallon arrived, that was the first order I placed, by the way, 2 weeks ago. Or not 2 weeks ago, it's longer than that now, but took 2 weeks. I was like, oh man, they're closing down for Chinese New Year. Like, yeah, I do need more. Like, dang it. So I order them. They literally arrived in less than 48 hours. Now, between them arriving and getting to me, I actually placed another order that had the intake, a dosing pump, and like another thing. And that also paid the $20 shipping. And so that was placed like a week in. So something that I placed a week later arrived in 48 hours. And now we're on like week 3.5 as of today that it hasn't arrived. So I have no idea if like they were out of one product and they're like, oh, we'll fill it after Chinese New Year. I have no idea. Communication's been terrible. I sent customer service a thing. It has now been 3 weeks. Crickets. Nothing. So I don't know. it's it's kind of one of those things like, yeah, I don't know. I'm writing a letter to your retail store. Will I receive it or is there a better address? Nope. If you get it to there, it'll make it to me. Yeah, it takes a while. You know, it's kind of one of those like, yeah, they set it aside. And then when I'm there, if they remember, like, hey, by the way, you got a thing, then they hand it to me. But oftentimes when I'm there, like, hey, we're working on stuff. And then it's, you know, like, oh, dang, I forgot to grab that. Okay, next time. And so, you know, I'm there every 10-ish days probably. I just got to remember. But usually when I'm there, there's a lot of things like I got to do this, I got that, this, I brought you this, what about that? Following up on this. So, in my experience, does moving water from an established tank to a brand new tank help the cycling process at all? Yes, I do think it does some. I don't think it's magic. So, you know, don't think like, oh, I'm going to put water over here. I can just do whatever I want now. Like, I don't think it's that. I think it's equivalent to like a very mild dose of like Fritzime, you know, but real mild. Like I guess I would answer it with I think it's better than not, but I also don't think it's critical or really is gonna make a big change for you. So, you know, for me, if I had a tank that was like, let's say I was gonna put a tank on the desk here, I could easily siphon from the big tank to there, and I'd be like, yeah. But I wouldn't go like across the room, siphon into a bucket, come over and dump it. I'm like, that's just too much work. I would just fill it with new water, probably with a Python or something. Let's see. Reasons why you need to make new light. Oh, yeah, that is a reason why I need to make new lights. Is their shipping is terrible. Yeah. Uh, I do think there might be one benefit to tariffs and stuff is people will end up buying less stuff and shipping should get easier. Not cheaper, but just like less things will be in the mail. I think there's actually a chance of like, hey, more things are landing when they're supposed to on time. You know, I'm looking for the silver linings in a lot of these things. Uh-oh. My Eufy from your Amazon list has changed my life so much. Literally, so much personal angst about dirty floors has disappeared completely. Yeah, I was a very slow convert to Roombas slash vacuums, like just automated vacuum things. And as well, this is probably a good business thing, lesson or whatever, but like as it's gotten more and more expensive to just have employees or my time or whatever, the more it started to be like, we're spending 20 minutes a day vacuuming at the store, like every day. So like in the expansion, knowing that we're gonna get 3 times as big, I'm like, this is gonna be an hour of vacuuming every day. Like that's minimum $25 plus all the taxes. So like that's $30 a day, and I'm like, in 1 month, that'd be $900 we're paying to vacuum. And so just like water changing, like we could just buy a device to automate this. Like I would much rather pay my employee to gravel vac an aquarium than vacuum the floor. And so I have deployed basically robot vacuums in my fish room, in my home, which there's still places you still gotta follow. They're not perfect. And then at the store expansion. And so like once you do the homework, it's a buy once, cry once situation. But the first Roomba I got, not a fan. The first Eufy one I got, better, but left a lot to be desired. So then I did way more research, and I bought another one, and that's the one. And that's the one I linked for you guys. So you guys can save yourselves the 1 to 2 robot vacuum. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. It's not as good as people say. And it's like, well, there's not, those models aren't very good, is the problem. Deployed. Yeah, I'm deploying my robots. What's my view on Higer? My honest guess, I don't want to say opinion because I don't know if it's a formed opinion. My honest guess is Higer is trading on borrowed time. And what I mean by that is if you just launch every product that you can get your hands on, that's not a sustainable model long term. It just isn't. And what I mean by that, it's not just like, oh, we carry one heater and one light and one food and one thing. It's, oh no, we have 40 different heaters, we have 52 different lights, and all of this. I can't put a winning recipe together where you can basically offer remotely good customer service and check on product quality at all with that business model. And so I think it will always lead to failure long term and unless they, and I haven't seen it yet. I keep waiting for like, okay, well I could see like maybe you just put out 40 products and you're like, what are the winners? We'll streamline it down to the winners. Instead, what I'm watching is they launch like 20 and you're like, all right, let's watch them whittle it down. 25, 30, 35, 40? Like, what are you guys doing? And so even when I see them in the stores, I'm like, yeah, but how? A store's not going to carry 40 different heaters. Like it's crazy. And so I think what we're going to see is something will happen. Like, I don't know, either they take over the world or they just kind of fizzle out. And I think user sentiment will change too. Like, we talk about this internally all the time. Like, are we even going to sell heaters? And should fish stores even sell heaters? And it's like a fish store, I believe, yes, because you could have a heater go out and you need a heater that day or your discs are going to get sick, right? I understand that. But online, no matter what, you have to wait to get it, right? Whether it's a couple days, whatever it is. Like that doesn't fill in the emergency, right? And so when we're looking at it, the problem is it started with Fluval discontinuing lines of their heaters that we were carrying. Like, okay, again, Fluval tripping as always. Like, there's always a problem with Fluval. And so then we were looking and we're like, all right, what are we going to do about this? Like, and I started looking at wholesalers, back to a previous conversation. I couldn't even find heaters in stock at the wholesalers. And I'm like, this makes no sense to me. Like, even wholesalers aren't carrying heaters? And I'm talking Seache, Eheim, Fluval Marina, which that's the same company, Aquatop, I'm trying to think of Cascade, Neotherms by Cobalt. Like, between all of them from these major outlets, like each one, you're like, okay, so you have 17 heaters for 1,100 stores. Like, that is stupid. And then like, okay, yeah, you've got 400 heaters. And I'm like, that's not even close to what could keep up with demand. And so then I started going, okay, there's got to be something else going on. And I realized, or I believe, that basically everybody's just buying heaters online slash Amazon, which everyone's going, yeah, duh, yeah, we do. Uh, but I think the bigger picture is that there is such a war for the cheapest heater on Amazon. Like, I don't even know how many hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of heaters there are. But if you type in like, let's say a 25 watt heater, because that was the original thing we were like, okay, we need like little heaters. The one, you can ship them okay. And then two, like, small tanks, right? And right here, you can see that the second listing is a 25 watt fish tank heater for $5.97. And it will, like it tells me right now, it will overnight to me and be here between 4 and 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's just literally impossible. I could get the heater for free and hand it to my warehouse, and we would still lose money. I could put it in the hands of an employee at the store, and even if we like sold it for $6, we would still lose money with credit card transaction and paying the employee to be there for the 10 minutes they talk to you. And so that's what I think is going on. Is it just, there's such a war on so many of these products that it's a race to the bottom. And yeah, there's plenty of reviews, plenty of people buying it, and I don't fault people for it. I don't know where to go as for us, like, where do we go? And so where I'm going is we bought one of the $100 Chihiro's heaters to test out. Dean's going to put it through its paces because he's like, I'll play with it. I'm like, okay, I'll get you one. And if he likes it, I'll start playing with it. And maybe the $100 heater will be more reliable and things like that. But yeah, I can see why wholesalers aren't bringing on a ton of heaters, because if you don't own a store, work at a store, you don't know that people literally be like, you could have all the best heaters in your store, like whatever it is. And people are like, yeah, but why would I buy that one? I can get this one online for $6. And they won't understand, like, but it's not the same. It's not the same. You can imagine if online you could order a car for $600. It was brand new. And every time you went to a car dealership, they're like, yeah, our cars start at $20,000. You're like, well, I'm gonna try the $600 car because I don't have a reason to not try it yet. And so that, I think, is one of the big bummers that's going on right now. And that's always gonna, I think it's always gonna be taken a certain way where, like, Corey just wants them to cost a lot of money. That's not true. I want it because we have to deal with the aftermath, right? Of like, customer, which one should I buy? There's 498 heaters that are 25 watts. That this one's got 22,000 reviews. This one's got 4,000. This one's got 898, 122. This one has 11,155. And then when you dig into the reviews, the ones that aren't being paid for, you're like, ooh, that's a problem, that's a problem, that's a problem. Okay. Oh, they love it, they love it, they love it. That's a problem. You kind of don't know, like, is this good? So back to our original problem. What do we do with heat pumps? Or not heat pumps, but heaters. Like, make our own and not make money? Do we try to sell someone else's that no one's stocking? I don't know. The other problem that you have is that heaters in general, like, this could be a heater, right? They're this long. It's not that long, not that crazy. But this, like, if you order this, and how do I not have any aquarium products on my desk because I moved everything? But let's say you just order this in one plant. It's like, well, the box could have been this big, but this heater itself has ballooned the box size because heaters are glass, right? So the box for the heater is actually gonna be like this big, and then you got to put that in a box, right? So heaters, even if they're free, basically have like a $10 surcharge for shipping if you want to make it they're not broken. And so yes, it's a challenge of a market. So yeah, and everybody in chat is probably saying, like, but we want more reliable heaters. And meanwhile, the majority of the market is buying the cheapest heater. Just think of every non-hardcore hobbyist you've ever met. They're like, yeah, I just picked one up like Have you ever met the people that buy their fish food like from the grocery store? You're like, wait, you buy your food like, oh yeah, I get Tetra at the grocery store. And you're like, oh, you and I are not alike. Yeah, yeah, you have like it's like your family, a member has a pet, but you're not a hobbyist. Like, yeah, we're just waiting for, Goldie to die. That thing, we got it, 4 years ago. No one pays attention. I got to clean its tank once a year, and we buy it food from Walmart or, from whatever your local grocery store. Like, whoa, okay. And when the heater goes out, they're just going to hop on here and be like, yeah, that one's $8. That's fine. We'll do it. So, yeah. Let's see here. Moving on. Surprised we haven't made a titanium heater? You'd be surprised about a lot of things. You'd probably be surprised most titanium heaters aren't titanium. When you really get into it and you have them tested, you're like, oh, but it says on the box. Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead and have it tested. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, you run into all these little problems, and the problem is not the glass part of the thing breaking. It's electronics and all of these things that goes into it, and the fact that at a 25 watt heater, the price point is the lowest that I've seen, which is the second thing on the page, is $6. Literally can't and don't want to compete for that. Like, it's just not worth it at the moment. I've tried a couple of Haiger heaters. Surprisingly, I've had a Haiger 300 watt heater outlast 3 Haiger 500 watt heaters. 3 of them. Well, to me, that as a guy that has had to make heaters, it completely makes sense. The 500 watt heaters create an insane amount of heat that usually cooks their own components. Like when you talk to manufacturers, they say the sweet spot is actually about 80 watts. Like you don't melt down internal components, capacitors, and things like that. It is one of the safest ones to use, but that's not what sells. The rest of the world outside of America, they want 1,000 watt heaters. They want big numbers. In America, we pretty much just go like, I got big tank, need big heater, 300 gallon, 300 watts at least. And so it's just it's a market that hasn't, it is maturing. So it is maturing. I don't know. It's an undefined market. There's no, it's not easy. If I asked 100 people what are they looking for, it's probably spreads out and go, well, I could make a heater that serves one of those types of customer. Does the sponge filter fall? No, I actually corrected it. What was I doing over there? I think I was feeding the fish, and I was like, hold on. It was even getting to me. $6 heater soon to be $7.50 with tariffs. Actually, no, it won't be. And what I mean by that is that $6 already includes the 25% tariff. So literally when they go in on Tuesday, that heater will be $6.60. About the biggest thing that will change for online commerce is the way they're going to not ship out of China anymore. As in, right now, Temu and even half, let's use Chihiro's. Let's use a non-budget brand, because I think that brings a different perspective. So even Chihiro's, when you purchase, the lights aren't in the United States. They ship from China. Because, and I've talked about this in live streams from years and years ago, it is literally cheaper if I needed to ship this thing right here. If I needed to ship this to my neighbor, one house down, I would probably spend $10, right? And it would take 2 days to get there, or at least a day. If I ship this from China directly, from the manufacturer, this little pouch, it'll be $3. Like, how does that make any sense? To go 20 feet or 20,000 miles or however far that is, it is cheaper to go way longer. And it's because there's a treaty and all that kind of stuff that allows that. And so that's how you get heaters that are $6, basically. It's a race to the bottom, and I want to race to the top of those heaters. That's what I want. Have I tried Aquael heaters? We have, yes. Dean put them through the paces. If you don't know, Aquael makes cobalt heaters. And the last round we did was before we launched our heater. Even though they claimed they had fixed all the problems, they still had the problems of breaking and still killed Dean's fish again. So now that they could have fixed it the next day, so I always want to remind people an experience I've had 2 years ago doesn't mean they're still that way. They could like might be perfect now. I don't know. Usually companies don't move that fast, but I don't know, and so. But yes, we went through extensive testing and ended up not launching them with them. We were like, let's go for highest technology. Let's test them because they were willing to put them as an Aquarium Co-op brand and all of that, but they couldn't pass what we wanted them to do, so we didn't. I have to ask your thoughts on the Flueball 300 series. I have 2 in my 250-gallon discus tank and 1 in my Angel tank. I wonder on their lifespan. Their lifespans seem to be fine. The main problems we sold those heaters for years. The main problems we had was keeping them in stock. Every heater is going to have problems, but we would get into cold seasons where it's like, okay, we better get 1,000 of this size. We better get like 400 of that size, and we'd just be getting like, you sent 46 of this one, like that. It's not gonna do it. Come on, Flueball. And they'd finally get stocked back up, and it'd be like, yeah, but it's summer again now. Like I don't want to carry $50,000 in heaters in the 6 months where they don't sell. Like you need to keep them when they're around, like when it's time. The other problem with Flueball in general is they run these very stupid sales where, like, let's say this blue tape. Let's say you wanted to buy blue tape from Flueball. They'd be like, yes, we will sell that tape to you, Corey. We think it should retail for $8. We will sell it to you for $5. And you go, yeah, but on Amazon it sells for $6. That doesn't make sense. And they go, well, you should buy it with one of our sales. Like during Black Friday, like the month of November, we put this on sale. You normally buy it for $5. We will put it on sale for $3. You need to buy enough for the entire year and store it to get that $3. And it's like, so I need to spend $100,000 so that I could sell it at the same price as on Amazon. And you want me to invest $100,000 before I have to pay tax on it 45 days later. That is terrible for a local fish store. Terrible. And no matter how many times we fight it, they just go, well, that's what the higher up in Flueball, that's what we do. We got our 2 sales, one at Super Zoo, we got the one at, November. Like, okay, you're making it impossible to work with you guys. It's also not that simple. They would say, like, you have to buy that much blue tape and construction pencils and cat litter and this other thing in a bundle to get those rates. And you're like, but I don't need those other things. And they're like, yeah, we know. So are you thinking about tackling heaters or bringing the co-op heaters back? No, neither at the moment. Couldn't be further. Yeah. Let's see. Can freshwater folks incorporate protein skimmers like saltwater folks? I have a limewood airstone for years. It worked great. The density of the water won't be correct to actually get the foaming action on a saltwater skimmer. Now, there are ways to use it, as in you could use a protein skimmer like in a sump on a giant freshwater tank, and it would really keep your water well oxygenated, but it won't do the main function of foaming out proteins like a saltwater tank will. So, and even most brackish, you got to get pretty heavy brackish to get it to do it. So, unfortunately, we don't have that tool at our disposal. But lots of other ones like rotary drums and things like that can be used in saltwater can also be used in freshwater, but just not that one. That one doesn't work out well for us. Let's see. My chat is like frozen up. Let me look on this side. Yeah, okay. Last week I asked about an out-of-stock plant. As promised, it was back in stock, waiting for a nice assortment of co-op plants to arrive. Good. Yeah, we will, every plant we have, we will order it from multiple sources every single week. Like, if it exists in America, it will be coming to us because we buy from everyone that sells plants in America. 2 different farms and an importer. And so if we can get it, it's coming. And so it's not one of those things where like, well, I went to Home Depot and they were out. Like, no. We went to 3, we went to all, it would be like we went to every single Home Depot in America and they're out. So we don't have it. Yeah, and that it's all grow tables. So if we forecast, we say, hey, we sell 500 water sprite a week, and we start selling 700 a week. Well, eventually we're gonna run through their backlog, and then we're gonna have to sit out for like a month or 2 while they go, okay, we'll make it so we're growing 750 for you for a week. And then we'll be well stocked with it again. But as sales grow, so do demand at the thing. And they can, each time there's a storm, right? Whether it's a flood, a hurricane, it's a windstorm or whatever, like they lose some plants. That puts, there's going to be some outages in the delivery schedules for everybody. And so we try to do, we vary that up as much as we can, but at the end of the day, there's only so much you can get. And even right now, if you're like, but you could go to another country, like a lot of the world shut down for Chinese Lunar New Year. Like it just happens that way. Everyone kind of goes, yeah, okay, if they're shutting down and you're shutting down, okay, we'll shut down and then we'll spin it back up. So, let's see here. If you could develop a freshwater protein skimmer or even a real good freshwater algae scrubber, yeah, I mean, there's, what is that, Santa Monica algae scrubber company or whatever, which they seem to be like, I don't know what's wrong with that company, but they've been around forever, and the product seems like, yeah, I think everybody wants that at not that crazy price. I don't know why it's never taken off, other than it doesn't necessarily look cool, and it totally feels like I could DIY that product. But the reality is, I believe instead of protein skimmer or algae scrubber, we have these beautiful things called plants, and we should embrace those. So that's what I recommend, and that's what most people do. Hey, Noel, and you all. Want to say thanks. You've been so reliable and products are great. I've been a faithful follower of your brand for my entire aquarium journey. Couldn't be more grateful. Well, that's what we like to hear. We definitely have had our own mistakes and flub ups and out of stocks and all of that. And I always just maintain, let's just make it right. That's all we can do. We can try and make it right. We can't please everybody. We can try as hard as possible. And as other people aren't trying very hard, it is much easier for us to look better. So that does help. But, sometimes you can't make it right. Like, well, I don't know what to tell you about that one. That one, I don't know how to fix that. Oh, I've got a question that's not correlated for once. All right. What chemicals or products can you use to combat cyanobacteria in a Faka puffer tank? You want to use either slime out or Maricin, which is the active ingredient in Maricin is erythromycin, which API makes erythromycin, or Fritz makes Maricin, or Fritz also makes slime out. Any of those 3 products will work to combat the bacteria, which is cyanobacteria. I suspect also you could use a decent amount of salt if you didn't have, plants and some of the fish in there. Can we talk about bacterial powders? It seems that other parts of the world use powders while we use liquids, and why is that? In my opinion, there's just a lot of, I would wager that 60% of the bacteria market is just fakeish. I don't think people make fake products. I just think, like, in manufacturing and wholesaling and all of that, there's basically like this denial, like plausible deniability, where it's like, let's say you make a bacteria, like, and I think Fritz does this very well, by the way, which, yes, we do sell Fritz, so take that bias for what you want. They know that TurboStart, bacteria content super high in that liquid, and it has to stay refrigerated. If you don't, it dies off. So they make a less concentrated version that doesn't have to be refrigerated, but outside of certain temperatures, it could also still die off. What you see a lot of is companies making one version and going like, yeah, this is great. You should probably just keep that refrigerated. And everyone just kind of that doesn't know goes, oh, okay. But wait, it's not refrigerated at my fish store. And wait, it's sitting at the wholesaler's warehouse not being refrigerated? Oh. Most people also wouldn't know that, like, I definitely spout some big numbers where it's like, oh, wow, we're selling 3,000 units of these a month? The average wholesaler might only move that many units in 9 to 12 months, but they'll buy the same amount. And so if I buy these crackers that I have here, right? And to get the right price, I've got to buy 1,000 boxes, or yeah, let's say 1,000 boxes. But because I don't price them very well, because that's what wholesalers do, it takes me a year to sell these crackers, right? And the problem is, me as a fish store, if the order just came in, they're nice and fresh, right? And then I might take a month to sell my crackers. All right, that's fine. They're still fresh crackers. Well, let's say they got them in February. Well, now it's October. It's the same crackers at the wholesaler. I'm ordering them. We get them, but they're not fresh, but they're not expired because they got a 2-year shelf life on the package, right? And the fish don't like it as much. And so that's one big perk I can say. We don't sit on product very long. Like, even I'll use Extreme as an example. We're buying from Extreme every month, pallets worth of food, because we sell a ton. So it's because we get lots of online sales, we don't have that problem. You probably wouldn't have that problem with like Amazon either, because they're moving so much volume. But at a mom and pop store, depending if they're buying from us, it's gonna be real fresh. If they're buying from, like a Tetra food from one of their suppliers, they might have had a pallet of that that's like, oof, it's looking pretty long. And so that's where when people give the advice, like, look at the expiration dates. You want something that's dated out pretty far away if you're, Now, some products last better than others. Some wholesalers do better than others. Some temperature control, some don't. And that was like our brine shrimp, for instance. We keep them in freezers. And most brine shrimp at wholesalers, like eggs you get in a vial or something, they're not kept in a freezer. And so how long have they been sitting there in the heat? Oh, it's a metal storage facility. It's 100 degrees in there. Like, oof. And then it goes to a store, and they're not going to refrigerate it typically because it wasn't refrigerated when they got it. And so you might get a poor hatch rate. Where we think what's logical, keep it as frozen as long as you can. So maybe you do have brine shrimp eggs for 6, 7, 8 months now because it's real expensive to bring them in with a frozen cargo container. You store them in the freezer, and then you're shipping them to a customer or a store. And yes, they will not be refrigerated or frozen then, but now they've only been out of like frozen mode for days to weeks, a few weeks, as opposed to months and months and months. And so it's all a big, longer process that, so when it goes back to bacteria, to wrap this all the way back around, you can imagine that a steel building with a bunch of aquarium products that hits 110, 120, that bacteria is not doing so hot. And so like we sell it, right? Our bacteria literally goes from Fritz directly to us and then to our stores or to you directly. The only thing you really got to watch out for is that it doesn't freeze. And so, Fritz spends a lot of money to get it to us without freezing. And then we could temperature control our warehouse. We send it to you guys. And if it freezes, hey, you got to email us and go, hey, it's frozen. And we go, dang it. Reshipping it to you. Sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, I guess I didn't even finish addressing. So why are so many other countries and stuff like that using powders? Powders, to the best of my knowledge, they are much cheaper to kind of store and transport, and you can claim big numbers like, oh man, there's 42 billion bacteria in this little container. But how likely are they to establish in your aquarium and stay viable? And those things are big questions of like, well, we don't advertise that part. We don't talk about that part. And so a lot of countries, it could just be hard to get any product, right? So, if you're talking to someone in South Africa or something, and like we were looking on the forum, they were looking at fertilizers. Well, there's not really a bunch of commercial fertilizers you can even buy in South Africa. And so you're not, with no competition, you're not forced to do something better. And that's a bummer for the hobbyist, but you'd still rather be able to get something than nothing most times. Yeah. Denise donating 5 memberships, and welcome Mark back to the club. Thank you. I use ACCR powder. Yeah, ACCR powder will dechlorinate your water. Do we ship to Canada, specifically Newfoundland? We do not, but we work with April's Aquariums, who is in Canada, and they ship all throughout Canada. So you can work on that with them. Like, you just go to their website, you can order it up, and they've got fairly good terms. We are about to be doing a lot of learning when it comes to Canadian tariffs. Like, we had different structures on products and stuff from previous treaties and things like that, but I have a feeling in the next coming weeks we're going to learn a lot about import, export tariffs between us and Canada, and we'll be seeing what we can do, if there's anything we can do to mitigate that. Does it affect all of our products? Doesn't it? We're waiting. Obviously it's not even implemented yet, but it might be a good time. Just saying, it might be a beneficial time, because someone was asking that earlier in the chat, like, what should we be stocking up on? Well, if you're in Canada, if these tariffs go through, and that's an if, and I'm not talking politics, talking business here. If they go through, I would imagine that prices will have to raise in Canada. If China tariffs increase from 25 to 30%, we will have to raise our pricing as well. Won't be instantly. We've already talked about this quite a bit. If we have products in stock right now, we're not going to raise the price on them. But there will be a point in which, like, oh, this cargo container just landed with brine shrimp, as an example. How about that? Brine shrimp eggs. We're all waiting on that. Well, if that comes in and costs us 10% more, we'll be forced to charge more, or we'll just put ourselves out of business. So that'll be a bummer. But, good news is we try to remain as efficient as possible. And most of our products are, what do I want to call them, like long lasting. So let's see. I'm a microbiologist. We stored a ton of our bacteria cultures frozen. I'm curious if anyone knows why freezing damages the bacteria in this case. I don't know, Catherine. You'd want to talk to, well, I don't know if they would even tell you, but you'd want to talk to Fritz and their chemists, because that would be great. If we could just freeze them, we would, and then we would ship them out and they would just thaw, and that would work awesome also. Have I ever considered selling our own brand of bottled bacteria? We definitely have. We have offers from manufacturers and stuff like that. The problem is, I don't see, there is too much skepticism around bacteria. Some brands, it's sugar water. Some brands, it's legit. And I think that it's not worth trying to go, hey, we have aquarium co-op, bottled bacteria, and people not being like, hey, this guy's a scam, is a grifter, it didn't work for me. And that doesn't mean I won't figure it out someday, but right now I can't figure out, like, how would I get the narrative to be correct so that it wouldn't hurt us? Like, you know, because not everyone believes that it works or is needed or anything like that. And I also would still need to make sure that it arrives to you guys in good condition as well. So there's still more, and then there's still the other step. After all that, how does Aquarium Co-op make it better, right? Because if Fritz just goes, hey, it treats 1,000 gallons for $10, let's just say that's the ratio. We have to be able to do better. Otherwise, to stay true to you guys, I should just be saying, hey, buy Fritz's. Doesn't make sense for us to go, well, Aquarium Co-op treats 900 for $10. Like, that's worse for you. And so if our bacteria somehow isn't better or a better bang for your buck, we're better off focusing on other places. And that's the reality of where we're at, is we always look at, like, well, what are we doing? Does it make sense to do this? Like, no, not enough people. Like, we've got a great product we're selling that does that. So unless there's a giant bonus we can do, we're going to work on this thing over here. Let's see. How would I ship a Corridora from Washington to Kentucky this time of year? I personally would ship them in like a Gatorade type bottle. I would use an insulated, the thicker you can find, the better, insulated styrofoam inside of a brown box. The lid, I would tape a heat pack up to it, and I would poke holes in the styrofoam so it can still breathe through the paper or through the cardboard and through the lid there. And yeah, it would be some method like that is what I would be doing myself. And I would be paying for faster shipping, which all of that's going to add to the cost. And so I don't have that parameter. How would you ship them for $20? Like, ooh, yeah, I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that, but getting them there live is doable. Just costs more money and more thought to it. Let's see here. Turbo Start 7000 goes crazy. Literally never had an issue with it. Yeah, Turbo Start is a good product. If I could reliably think I could always get it to all the states without getting too hot or too cold, we would bring it on. But I haven't figured out how to do it yet. There are other people that do it, and we test them, and it's like, yeah, but you didn't do it right. So, some companies are willing to disappoint X amount of customers. I go out of my way to really try hard not to disappoint you guys. Doesn't mean I don't. I just try really hard not to. So I'm not going to do a move where I knowingly, like, oh, we knowingly are going to disappoint these people. That's not great. Americans will be forced to make their own local products. That would mean more local jobs for Americans. In a very simple vacuum, that is true. Imagine that no stuff could come in or out of America tomorrow. You wouldn't see another piece of, like, another cell phone, anything that required a microchip. This remote control requires a microchip. You wouldn't see another one of these made for 10 years while we build the factory. Like, it wouldn't. And it would, for a device like this, probably 15 years. Because we'd focus on cars, we'd focus on computers, we'd focus on other things that are deemed to be more in demand than, like, my Easy Feeder takes a chip. When chip shortages were happening during COVID, we literally couldn't even bring them in. And so we are building infrastructure as the United States to make our own chips, and we're years and years out from it, even with funding and all of that. And you go, well, we can accelerate that. Like, yes, we could. It also might mean 4 years without having any. So, yeah, it's, a good statement that I read, and I believe this to be easy to understand for a lot of people that don't have to import and things like that. Tariffs are most effective when they are used on products that a country already produces. So, for instance, if we already produce I'm going to pick something here on my desk that I know that we might produce. All right, here's a great thing. This little paper boat. Maybe we already produce this in America. We probably make paper products, right? Does it have a stamp? That would be really helpful if it did. Does not say made in USA or anywhere else, but this would be a good example of something to put a tariff on if we were importing most of it. If we were importing most paper boats, you put a tariff on it, and it incentivizes the people that sell paper boats to buy from a USA manufacturer, right? That makes sense. Like, okay, we'll raise the price on the ones outside of America. They cost more money. I can get them for cheaper in America. I will buy them here and I will sell them. And that's how the tariff normally is intended to work. But let's say you go to this remote, this tiny little remote for the light that's lighting me up right now. See? If you put a tariff on this of 100%, let's say, I will just have to pay the 100% because no one can literally make it in America. It cannot be done currently. So that, someone says tariffs will bring products back to America. No doubt it will. Let's use another example real quick. Let's say you have a medication that you need, and it is not made in America. And you put a tariff of 10,000% on it, so it's impossible to come here anymore. You will die before the factory gets built that can make your medicine. That's why usually it's a very gradual thing of like, you explain the plan, you go, hey, this is the thing we're trying to do, and here's the schedule in which we are upping the tariffs, and we are doing this to incentivize us, the companies, to make that transition. So yeah, it's not usually an on-off switch. It's kind of like, hey, let you know, like we're ramping it up. And to be fair, I will admit that is going on with China currently. We started at 25%. Now we might be going to 35%. We start every time with, can we get this anywhere else but China? Every time we start that way. And every time we end up going, nope. Like, so for instance, we have a new product coming out this week. It'll be the Easy Shrimp and Snail. We spent 2 years trying to get it done inside the United States. We tried with Fritz. We tried with other manufacturers. We got a recommendation, try with another manufacturer. We've tried and we tried. And eventually we said, okay, well, we can't get it done. Let's try. And so eventually we went to China. A year later, now they're coming out. And so it's one of those, like, we will always start with trying to find a local source first, because it always makes sense. If my neighbor down the road made sponge filters for me, it will always make sense for me to buy from him than it will be to ship it across the world. The problem is my neighbor across the street doesn't make sponge filters, doesn't own a sponge filter factory. And so I'd have to convince him, how do we do that, right? And tariffs and time is how you would do it long term. In short term, gotta figure it out. Craig says, can we move on from politics? Yeah, I think we can. But I would also say this isn't necessarily politics, because it's not part of a party or anything like that. It's literally the business part of, the business. So, but yes, I understand the sentiment there. How's the duckweeder coming along? The duckweeder, I need to print out a new version and work on that. I've got a tank of duckweed that I want to de-duckweed. Mostly I've been playing lots of catch-up still, since we did a lot of stuff. Been trying to do that, get ready. Zenzo's coming back. I think he comes back again this week. Yeah. And we're going to work on a bunch more stuff. And, so trying to balance 3D printing projects with normal like workload and then work-life balance. So doing an okay job at the moment. Will the Easy Shrimp and Snail food also be good for bristlenose plecos? They might eat on it a little bit, but I don't think it's a main source for bristlenose plecos. Like it will have spirulina algae in it, but it's a lot of calcium, and I think, yeah, I think if you're trying to do better for your plecos, you'd use like bottom scratcher from Rapashi or wafers or something like that. Whether it's zucchini or any of those things. So, um, yeah, I do think they'll eat it. We won't be marketing it that way. I try kind of hard not to. So many of our things like can do so many things, but I only like to market like, but it's good at doing this thing. So, um, yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, Corey's so chill with the tariffs. Just matter of fact, all you can do in business is try to keep a level head and go, okay. And I've always been this way. What are the rules of the game? And then you go, okay, let's do what we can. And if we do is the best job we can, my hope is that my team will be successful, right? If they like, I was reading about the NBA, or at least a headline. Let's back that up. I'm not well read into that. But to make the game more appealing, shortening the quarters and moving the free throw line to the 3-point line, and like that's changing the rules of the game. But since it's changing for everybody, it would just be like, yeah, okay. Well, if that actually was to happen, let's say next season or the season after, you different players would be valued, right? All of a sudden, like, okay, we need to really start training for the 3-point line. We don't have to endurance train as much because the games aren't as long. The rules of the game just change, and so you go, okay, those are the new rules. Let's start adapting our strategy to work inside those rules, and hopefully our team is good, and we will get through this. This is my new favorite thing. LDH Aquatics has a hand raising emoji. I need to get that implemented as like an emoji on the channel for sure. Question. We need more food with Brando because it's what plants crave. I like my water where it is, the pH and the GH, but if I leave it too long without changing water, it always crashes. The KH is way too low. Yeah, that's that kind of, it's almost like a triangle with that. It's hard when you have one of the legs of the triangle, like, oh, you end up having, mostly I end up bumping out one of the other parameters to get the KH or the one that's lacking up to where I want it to be. How's Dean? We need a Dean cameo soon. I was speaking with him yesterday. Well, no, today, right? Let's see. Yeah, a couple hours ago. And yeah, last time he was here, we didn't film because it wasn't good filming content. And yeah, but no, it's the only thing I can really explain is Dean kind of just has a different life now. He's he goes to his beachfront house more, which is he's kind of like working on it a lot and renovating it, and his wife and him live together, which sounds super weird, but before they were not always in the same place because her career would put her at a different place, and Dean didn't like leaving his fish room essentially, and so there was flying back and forth or driving back and forth, and that would leave like, oh yeah, there's a week of just Dean in his fish room. Well, now there's more like, hey, here's a weekend of Dean in his fish room and not a week of Dean in his fish room, which leaves a little bit less time to come hang out at Corey during the middle of the week. So, but health is doing well. He's doing well. He's still having fun with fish, all of those things, and we just try to hang out more often. He still makes all the GSAS meetings and stuff, which I got to decide if I'm making next Saturday's meeting or not yet. But yeah. Snow update, 0 snow. Well, good. It's a good thing I live streamed because I was going to be super bummed if I was live streaming and I missed the snow. I've had that happen more than I'd like to admit. I think last year, didn't I end the stream like, it's snowing, gotta go? Let's see here. Corey is bulletproof. I don't think that. I will be 100% honest in that our business only exists because you guys keep supporting us. So like you are very important to us surviving and having careers and all of that. And that's why we try very hard to do a good job for you guys. Like that's, you know, everyone always thinks like, yeah, I have a boss, like I have someone above me. But the reality is that the real boss is always the customers, you know, and I don't necessarily think the customer's always right, but if you alienate your customer base, you don't exist as a company anymore. So we try really hard to go, how do we make most people happy that are buying from us? That's always the decision. Does this make more people happy? We should try and do that. You know, every once in a while, I'm gonna make a decision where no one's gonna be happy. That try not to do that very often. How's my planting outside and the pond been doing? The pond neglected. Plants doing pretty okay, I would say. We got busy. I don't know what happened, but we were supposed to buy a bunch of cool native plants early January online. Like they release like a buy list for native plants in Washington, and I don't know if we were busy or what, but by the time Katie looked like most of them was sold out, I was like, dang it, because we'd missed it last year. So we're hoping, we're hoping to get in on some of that because we want to plant more stuff. And I'm trying to think, do we find anything new lately? Any new like, oh gosh, look at that. I don't think so. Do I have any experience with Dr. Bassler Biofish Foods? No, not really. Um, I haven't tested enough, mostly because the testing claims to be really difficult. Like the food that I'm mainly interested in are the ones that are like the medicated foods or the ones that can prevent ick. And I'm like, how do I quantify that? How many months or years would it take me to really prove this is or isn't working? And so I just haven't undertaken it yet. And I might never, I don't know. But some things I kind of go, I don't know, that's a pretty crazy claim. And then I just go, well, if it's true, in like a year, everybody will be telling me like this thing is the best thing since sliced bread. Like you don't need to use Icex anymore because you just feed this food. And it's now been about 4 years since that day happened. And I'm like, people aren't beating down the door saying this is the savior to all illnesses. So I'm like, and I just haven't had the time to do my own work. So again, it may completely work, but it hasn't gotten the Corey seal of approval because I haven't put it through its paces. And then I'm still on I'm not sure that's making it to the top of the list. And there are times I'm wrong. I will admit that, where it's like I sleep on a product for a long time and I use it. I'm like, this thing is the best. Like, what? No one else telling me this? Rare, but it does happen. Let's see here. My thoughts on aquatic isopods. Creepy as all get out, but fascinating. I definitely find myself watching videos and going, oh gosh, I would not even. I just keep thinking about like grabbing something, like ugh. I do that. I do that little creepy freak out move every time a bamboo shrimp gets on my hand or crayfish or anything like that. It's just always like a bamboo shrimp. Like it's literally impossible for you to hurt me, and yet you feel like an alien, and I don't like it. So, what was I even talking about? Like, why am I talking about? Oh, the aquatic isopods. And I feel like I'd be getting the same heebie-jeebie vibes. Like, ugh. If I was like, go grab something out of the aquarium and they ran around my hand or were under my hand as I grabbed it. So, but fascinating nevertheless. Definitely fascinating. Just haven't done anything with them. Dr. Bassler, we don't need a stinking ingredient list fish food. Oh, is that true? Uh, I think I literally met Dr. Bassler in Germany when he was like, yeah, my food does all this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. He did send me some samples. I kind of played around and I'm like, yeah, but to really prove this could be a long time. I just assume it had. Do they have to have ingredients? Isn't that like a thing? there's so many things I gotta do if I want to get a food into a different country. I just assume they'd have to have an ingredient breakdown. Or is it one of those like, yes, we have ingredients, it's these plus magic thing we can't tell you. Like, oh yeah? It's got that magic, huh? The Seattle housing market is a little ridiculous. Is there any out there suburbs that aren't so expensive? In my opinion, yes. But it's all like, do you have to go into Seattle to work? Like, from what I can extrapolate from when I was looking at homes, whatever your budget is, or whatever you need, like let's say like I gotta have 2 bedroom, 2 bath, whatever that it looks like every 15 minutes from the heart of Seattle, you go out in any direction almost. Every 15 minutes, the same thing drops by like $100,000. So if you're like, hey, I need a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and it's $1 million in Seattle, it's like, well, if you go 15 minutes away from Seattle, it's 900. If you go 30 minutes away from Seattle, it's 800, right? If you go 45 minutes, 700. You go an hour away, you're down to 600. And then, you might have to go like, an hour and a half away is 500. And so if you don't need to work in Seattle, that's totally the move. I'm 45 minutes basically to Seattle. And in fact, I would go more north if I didn't have my store in Edmonds. So if you were saying, where would you move, Corey? I really love the Mount Vernon, Burlington area in Washington. I think it's kind of it's got enough amenities for me, but also low key and slow enough farmland and all of that where I'm like, yeah, I like this. But still I'm 90 minutes away from the airport. I'm an hour and 10 or hour and 15 from Seattle if I need to go there. But it does put me an hour from the store, maybe an hour and 5 from the store. It's like, oof, well, and that adds up when you're like, well, you got to do that like almost every week. Like, yeah, just in driving, couple hours if there's no traffic. There is traffic, 3 or 4 hours. Like, ooh. But if you go up north, the more north you go, the less traffic there's going to be in general. The more south you go, there can be more traffic still in some of the spots. So no co-op heaters or lights on the horizon, so I may as well just confirm my order tonight. That'd be a solid choice. That'd be a solid choice for you. There's no sneaky heaters or lights coming out. Let's see here. At this time, which do you... Okay, brain not working. Let me read again. At this time, and then it moved. At this time, which do you, one of the better medicated fish foods generally have, or have generally gotten my approval? So far, none have. I would say the one that had my approval for a while, well, not as a medicated food, but I did like feeding New Life Spectrum Thera A because fish love to eat it, but I could not correlate that it actually helped boost immune system. When it comes to medicated foods, half of my gripe is if you're using it as my fish is sick and now I need to get better, well, half times fish won't eat once they're sick. So it's like, well, that's not going to work. And then 2, when you put it into a tank, let's say you've got 3 sick fish and 5 healthy ones. How do you prevent the healthy fish from not just eating a ton of that medication and them barely eating any? And so that's been my main thing. I am intrigued by somehow, well, maybe a great example. If I take off, I'm no longer the seller and I'm the buyer. So like for my dogs, we brought them into the vet this week and got their checkups, and they got their Bordetella or something like that. Their I don't know, a vaccine, a booster. I think it's a booster. And I was going, hey, we've been noticing that there's more cloudy in the eyes. Our dogs are like 12 years old, and eventually, Sassy, our previous dog, would just go all the way blind. And I was like, he keeps saltwater tanks, and so I go, let me ask you this. if my customer's coming with a problem, if this fish is doing this thing, I would be honest and just be like, hey, here's this either does work or doesn't work. And I'm like, I want that exact same thing from you. Is there anything that you have actually seen that can help with their eyes? And he said the only thing that he has seen was in only a couple of his clients' dogs was bilberry in a supplement maybe has helped. It doesn't improve their sight. In theory, it will slow down what they're losing. And so I, as a consumer, have now purchased some of that, and we are going to start adding it to our dog's food. But to prove that would nearly be impossible, because I would have to have like 2 sets of dogs and be like, hey, you get this, you don't. Now let's age you to 18 years. Is your vision better than these ones? And that no one's going to do it, right? And that's kind of the problem I have with the fish of like, so I would have to feed fish for quite a while this food that will prevent them from getting sick, and then start going out of my way to start trying to make them sick, and then replicate that enough times so that every time the people that got the medicated food didn't get sick, the ones that got other food did get sick. And if I could replicate that 2 or 3 times in a row, and it was the right time each time, then I could stand behind and go, yeah, this does that. But that's a crazy amount of work, and I have not gone down that road. And so even if bilberry helps my dog's eyes not degenerate as quick, it'll be like so many things in this world. I think it helped, but I can't prove it. There's so many things in this world that are like that. And so I'm very careful to go, I think this was probably good based on my experiences so far, and I basically kept small dogs like Chihuahuas my entire life. But turns out the genetics on those dogs, they were always going to degenerate at that rate or not degenerate. So it would be really hard on these things. And I try myself to not sell stuff I can't find a way to prove it. Like, I haven't visually seen it. I haven't seen that happen. So, and I have to see it and I have to be able to replicate it, because I see stuff that happens all the time. Replicating it can be very difficult. Do I plan on adding more products like bags to help hobbyist breeders pack and ship fish? I've looked on Uline, but you have to buy in bulk. Yes, we are actively working on that. The first set of bags that came were actually to like sell fish at the grocery store. So they misinterpreted this bag manufacturer. So now we've hooked up with a different manufacturer, and we're waiting for those samples to arrive. And I've got definitely requirements I want on them and all of that, and we'll see. We're starting down the process. We have launched our rubber bands. We have not launched our bags because we want to get it right. It's real important. You really got to have a bag that doesn't leak and doesn't get holes poked easily and easy enough to tie and all of those things. So all those are very important, and we've started we've started that process. But honestly, when we start a process, unless we get lucky, I'm like, wow, this manufacturer's made exactly how I wanted it, like, we could launch them in 6 months. But most likely we're probably about a year away-ish, maybe sooner, but I'd rather quote you longer than earlier. But yeah. Which, by the way, rubber bands are made in the USA, just FYI. The rubber bands we got, and a testament to, we need rubber bands. We found a literal rubber band manufacturer in America. We worked with them. We now have them. We do start there first. But we also started with bags, and everywhere we looked, like, oh, you don't make the bags. You just resell ones you import from China. On like 4 manufacturers in America. Because the problem, here's what happens, is like, oh no, we got bags. And like, what size do you want? I'm like, no. I need rounded corners. I need this thickness. I want a 2.5 mil. We don't have 2.5 mil. Like, yeah, but if you just have plastic, you can make 2.5 mil. Well, we actually don't make them here. We just sell them here. Like, oh yeah? That doesn't sound like you're manufacturing. That sounds like you're wholesaling. And we ran into that a few times. They're like, okay, so nobody's making them, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay. No one's actually doing that. That we ran into, at least those companies. And so then we're starting to look abroad instead of in America, because we keep running, it takes you a few weeks to learn that, by the way, of like, give me samples, I want this, and why aren't you willing to do any of the changes I want to make? So in most bags, what they want to do is they bring them in and they want to screen print. They got the machine to run your logos and stuff on them, but they don't have the machine to actually make the bags. You're like, well, you're really not a bag manufacturer then. You're more like a bag printer, right? And usually what you'll see is you'll see that, like, well, at one point, yeah, way back when we did make bags, but turns out we print bags now. Okay. So, let's see here. Any news about the new root tabs? Oh no. Yes, delayed. What? So at mass production, we are in that phase right now. So they were mass producing, made in America, by the way, mass producing our root tabs. And what they're seeing is at production, basically, I think they said it's popping out like 60 at a time with this machine, 60 root tabs. They're saying somewhere between 1 and 3 root tabs come out crumbly. So 1 to 3 of them out of 60. And our fear, all of our fear, the manufacturer's fear, our fear, is that, like, if 1 to 3 of them are crumbly out of the press, are more going to crumble in transit? Even though they all look good and they feel good and they test fine. So they made it through my testing because they'd send me, like, they do smaller batches. They'd be like, here you go, here's 50, here's this, or whatever. And in small batches, like, so what I want to say here. If you make 100 root tabs and it goes 50, ka-chunk, 50, ka-chunk, those 100 are absolutely perfect, and they made it through my testing great. It's when you go, okay, well, we now have to print 100,000. Ka-chink, 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 and then, like, 1,000 of them in, you're like, one's crumbly, what's going on here? And because they're dumping into like a big reservoir, right? And the longer you go, you're like, 2 are crumbly. So we're back to the drawing board a little bit. And well, not back to the drawing board. He's asking the manufacturer of the machine, what tweak can we make in a setting or in the formula to get rid of that variance? Because in manufacturing, there shouldn't be variance. It shouldn't just be like, and there can be, though, like, hey, is there humidity in the room? Is there a certain temperature of this, when the clay comes in or this comes in, what temperature is it at? You got to learn all those things, right? And so that's what's delaying it, of like, yep, we're probably going to spin up a whole nother batch of the same root tabs we sell right now so that when we do launch it, they will be perfect. And I realize 10%, like, I'll take a crumbly one, doesn't matter. Like, we can't go to scale like that. It's in our best interest to get it right. And so, unfortunately, Aquarium Co-op will move terribly slow when we know stuff like that. Like, well, let's get it right then. Let's work on it. It's just like, we just got to do it. That's all we got to do. It's time for a like spike. That's right. Hit that like button if you're enjoying or if you've learned anything. Would you? Let's see. Yeah, crumbling won't bode well for shipping. In theory, we haven't. That would be another stage of testing, right? I want to make sure they're not crumbly out of the machine at all, even if it's 1 out of 100. I don't want 1 out of 100 to be crumbly out of the machine, but 7 out of 100 are during shipping. So then we can actually play with it. So by the time you guys are getting them, we still have to find out all the quirks. They're still like, oh, at scale, this problem happens in shipping or in storage or in this or that, right? And so you don't know what happens because, like, oh, we put a desiccant pack in there to absorb the oxygen. Like, maybe they get harder. Oh, it actually fixes it. So, yeah. So we got a call last week, and they're like, look, They know our quality standards, and they're like, you're not gonna like this. I already know that if it's coming out of the machine this way, there's a potential, because we also don't do things in small things. It's not like, well, let's make 50 packs to see how it goes. Like a smaller retailer could do that. Like my store could do that, right? My store could be like, all right, yeah, maybe we only sell 60 packs of root tabs to the store a month. But online, it'll be like, oh, we sell 60 in 7 hours? That's so we end up having, we got to buy these things in massive bulk. And when there's a mistake, it's a massive bulk mistake. Like, oof, that's a lot of root tabs that kind of works out sometimes, because maybe, if it went horribly wrong, it has become, for members, right? Scratch and dent root tabs, we got them. Who wants them? Ooh, this is a fun topic. Making dinner, what's everyone else eating? Someone's eating ramen, someone's eating French onion cauliflower? Not even like a soup? Oof. I'm not going over to Star Farm's house. French onion cauliflower. Something else too, or is it just that? I feel like there's got to be more than that. If it's just a sea of French onion cauliflower, I'm sad. When searching for a new light manufacturer, do you have the schematic or plans from an old manufacturer, or are you back at square one completely? We could get them, but honestly, I want to make something different, which is going to be more work, but I've got ideas on, like, I think people would appreciate this. I think this is actually a little bit better. But I'm really not doing anything until I'm just going to say it, tariffs calm down. You can imagine, like, okay, yeah, we need to launch a light that's $150. And then you do all the work for like a year and a half, and you pay $20,000 in samples. And then when you go to launch it, you're like, yeah, but now it's a $300 light. And if people go, we're not buying $300 lights, like, that's not good. Sonic's doing the cooking tonight. This person's having chili hot dogs. Someone's having pork belly. My wife says it is soup, dear. Okay. Well, I would eat a cauliflower soup. Some cauliflower bisque is actually really good. Chicken patty melt with grilled onions and pepper jack cheese. Okay. Chicken and beans. Okay, I'm on board. Grilled hot dogs and hamburgers. Yes. Dinner is a chicken enchilada rice bake. Yes. Rancho Gordo Christmas limas, like lima beans and brown rice. Don't know, but I want to try it. Chicken tacos. All right. What are the benefits of regular bags versus breather bags? Well, breather bags, the way the plastic's made is it allows oxygen, CO2. It allows gas transfer as long as it doesn't get sealed. How does it get sealed, Corey? If two bags touch each other, they create a seal and they can't do it anymore. If you put it underwater, it creates a seal, can't do it anymore. But the biggest thing I would say is that regular bags, cheaper, bigger. I can't necessarily say less likely to break, because breather bags are pretty strong. More places make them, not as limited. And then there are certain fish that have to breathe from the top, like Corydoras, bettas, all the anabantoids like gouramis and stuff. And so like they will not do well in a breather bag. So one's not just strictly better than the other. They both have perks, right? So smaller, better for shipping. Bigger bags and cheaper, kind of better for retail stores. But even still, like I've done both. I've shipped both. I think I like normal bags better. The problem is you still have so many people when they buy a fish are like, what is this bag? How do I use it? That seems weird. There's no air. And so a lot of teaching's got to go on also to if you're going to use them to sell fish and ship. But you also got to worry a little bit if all your packaging gets wet. That kind of creates a seal again. I think the best method is actually to use like a plastic bottle to ship. Making beef stew, Swedish meatballs, yum. Hot wings and steamed zucchini. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you design bags, I would absolutely buy a ton of them for fish swaps. Yeah. No, that's kind of the plan. I'm just covering basics. And why are you working on bags, Corey? Because the wholesalers don't have any bags. Well, they didn't have any rubber bands. We literally couldn't get rubber bands in the right size. So then I got to make them. And then now I'm like, well, the next logical question is the minute you sell rubber bands, people are like, you don't carry bags? And so I knew I had to start working on bags. So I did, which came up today. Like, hey, you selling bags? Like, we're working on it. Yep. Let's see here. Ooh, we're having cheesy garlic turkey garlic bread subs. I'm on board. I'll show up. I hate. Wait, I think it means have. Division by 0. I hate a neon tetra. So I think it's I have a neon tetra that's acting strange. Can you tell me how to recognize neon tetra disease and what do you do about it? So 1, I don't think there's any actual cure for neon tetra disease. 2, to me it usually looks like like bubbles on the skin of the fish, if you will. I've never been able to cure it. That doesn't mean it's incurable. I could be terrible. I'm just saying I've never been able to cure it. And there's a lot of people going, you do it this way. And then I try and it doesn't work. So for the most part, what I recommend is make sure your water parameters are dialed in. Not too hot, not too cold, not wrong pH, not too many nitrates. Remove stress factors. Make sure it's not getting chased by other fish or trying to be bred all the time. And that's the best hope you can really do in my experience. Or listen to someone else and they go, I got the hot ticket. This is how you do it. And if it totally fixes your life, let me know and then I'll try it. Because I just don't have that I can dispense. I don't have that information to dispense to you, unfortunately. Let's see. How do you know when a new aquarium is conditioned enough for cherry shrimp? Oh, Glenn. Well, first, you start by watching my video, 60 Days to a Seasoned Aquarium. And then, when you think you know it all, you watch my video on how to start a shrimp tank. And after you've watched both of those, you will then have more information. You could ask a detailed question about, I wonder about this. My situation dictates that. And you can hop on the forum, or you got all your answers right there, and you're off to the races going, oh, I know what I need to do. So if you watch those 2 videos on the channel, you will answer 90% of what you probably got running through your brain right now. Like, how do I know? Now I know. How long would you leave a Piscogramma fry with the parents? I have some Inca fry that have been free swimming for the last week. Depends. If it's your first batch ever, I normally leave them with them and just observe. And what I mean by that is you get some parents who are like, they will raise them all the way up until they breed again. You have some that like will only raise them till they lay eggs again, and then no, they're good, there they go. So usually what I try to do is I try to get them all eating live baby brine, or if I had a batch right now, I'd be trying the small fish feed. And if they're all eating well for a few days, then normally I move the parents because it's way easier to catch the parents than it is the fry. But otherwise, you could try and siphon out the fry with just a hose and into a bucket. And then you can move them to another aquarium. But I find most times, about every 2 weeks, they go, hey, I'm laying more eggs. And those fry become, they could prey on the new baby. So then they snack on them and take them out. So if you remove them before that, you're good. Now, however, there are some parents that they just raise them up. Like, well, then you got a good pair going and you don't have to do anything. How funny would it be that every live stream ends with what everyone's having for dinner? Hey, we used to talk about tacos a lot. I used to end every video that I did in the fish room with, let me feed the fish and talk about it. I believe, it's a good marketing thing in general because food brings people together, and it's always good to learn about other good things to eat and to talk about it. So food is one of the universal things in the world that everybody has to do. It's a hobby, you got to do it, but everybody's like, oh, you don't know how to make food. You tell me you eat. You don't know how to eat. I know how to eat, right? Because we all have our favorites, and you get passionate about it. So it's a common subject amongst every human on the planet, basically, of like, That's why get-togethers and everything happens around food, because it brings people together and you can enjoy. And so I wouldn't be sad if the last 15 minutes was always like, hey, I'm eating this, I'm doing this, what are you doing? Like, that's just good camaraderie, I think. I tried to count all of my shrimp last weekend. I only did my reds, and I quit counting at 350. I still think I have a tank full of blue dreams. Nice. Nice. I was number 546. We're now at number 722. You are loved, Corey. Thanks for sharing your passion. Is that the amount of likes, I think? All right, I'll take that. I will take that. By the way, a little bit of update on the whole aquarium co-op and fans versus YouTube saga that you're not aware of, that you've been in it for the last 7 months. The whole amount of ads that shows up on these live streams after the fact. I have been battling, saying there has to be a bug, whatever, for like the last 7 months, and they've been working on it, right? Well, I finally snapped last week, and I was like, it did it again. Because what happened last week is I basically have to be done, and then I'm eating dinner, and I'm like refreshing. When it's done converting from the live stream to the video, it then inserts an ad every 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Yes, I did the math. Yes. And if I don't catch it, someone strolls along and they click in and they go, Corey, you greedy person. This many ads? Are you kidding me? I will never buy from you again. And then I remember at midnight or the next morning, and I go, oh, I didn't get rid of the ads. And I come in and someone nice, like the members, go, Corey, getting ads every 5 minutes, unwatchable. And I go, I'm sorry, I just deleted them all. Sorry. Well, they finally had their engineers look into it, which this tells me it was a real low priority for them. Supposedly, even though I don't have ads turned on in the live stream, you guys should have not gotten a single ad. Not even when you clicked in today. I literally have turned them off. Last week, I was like, you know what? I remembered I was eating dinner. I was like, I think it's okay to put an ad in every 30 minutes. So I did that. However, the next morning, people were telling me, hey, I'm getting ads every 5 minutes. And I go, and these are from members. I trust you guys. And I'm like, it is serving more than I put in. This is not working because I don't want this user experience. I can see it. I can verify it. It's only supposed to have 4 ads in the span of 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's not the user experience you're getting. So then I hit them up again and go, what is going on here? And they say, oh, well, we got feedback. And turns out that neither the live stream setting for ads has no bearing on the video, because it converts from a live stream to a video. And I said, okay, that's real dumb, but okay. And then I sent them an email and go, but I don't have automatic mid-roll ads on my videos either. And then they said, oh, well, it's not a live stream and it's not a video. It's a third category. And I go, uh-huh. And how am I to control that? They haven't responded. So right now, I if I don't do it manually, so I can't stop it. So what I've tried now is I've turned ads off for this live stream. You should have got nothing at all. And I'm waiting to see that when it converts over, will it put any in? We'll see. I did learn something though. While I was taking screenshots taking rage screenshots. Oh yeah, I'll show you analytics. I did see, I'll read it for you guys, word for word. Because I do think this is new. So I'll read this for you word for word. Let's see here. Let's edit this one. Let's go to monetization. We'll turn it to on. Let's see here. So the options I have, by the way, nerd tack, I can let YouTube insert mid rolls automatically. So that means while you're watching this live stream, it would just be like, yep, you get an ad, and now you get an ad. Now you're gonna. It would do it automatically, and I don't use that setting. Instead, I use the other setting that says choose how they appear, and you can set a frequency every 6 minutes, every 30 minutes, every 15 minutes, something like that. Or you can choose the setting. This is what I was always doing. I will insert the mid-roll ads manually, right? So unfortunately, there is no just don't show ads during live stream. That's not an option. They won't allow that. So you can turn it off all the way, or you can choose one of these settings. And so I was like, well, I'll just choose it manually, and I just won't put in ads, right? But where'd this setting go? Right here. Yes, here it is. So under the let YouTube insert the mid-roll ads, there is a new line that wasn't there before. And it says, automated ads are optimized to limit the disruption to channel members. So I think that's like the first step of what we've been asking for. If you're a paying member of this channel, just don't give them ads at all. They're already paying. Like YouTube, you get a cut of that. Just don't serve them ads. So I am a little bit hopeful for that. But it is not my intention to bombard you guys with ads. That is not good for my business. It's not good for you. It's not even good for YouTube. I think there is a very reasonable thing where it's like, hey, you got to watch one or two. YouTube can come at me and be like, look, man, we got to make some money. They got to watch 2 ads in 2 hours. That's what Twitch did. Twitch did, hey, you cost us money. You got to at least do some ads to make us some money or we lose money. I understand that. Hosting 2 hours worth of footage takes something, right? But 43 ads per hour is not the answer. That is not the answer. So I think it was 43 in 2 hours because that works out to it was 2 minutes, every 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So just know that if you're listening to this, it is not my goal to spam you. If you ever are getting spammed by ads, it is unintentional. You can leave a comment. I will do my best to fix it when I see it. And so I'll be testing tonight. Like an hour after I'm done, is it going to be like, oh, it's all ads, even though I set it to no ads at all, as in literally turned off? Because I want to give that feedback to him and go, is this truly uncontrollable, or is there just a setting that you guys can make? It's not can you do something. Obviously, they can do something. Will you do something is what I need to be asking them. Yeah, honestly, I decided to go premium on YouTube because the ads were becoming too much and it was frustrating. And that is 100% their game plan. No doubt. Let's make it super annoying and you'll pay for it. Now, this is a hot take. I think YouTube is worth every penny. And people are just, what? You're paying the corporations? You buy the family pack, you can share it with other households for and it's not everywhere in the world, so I know this. Some, I think Danny's Aquariums, his is up to $4 billion a month in Denmark, so it's not all equal, but I do believe that if you were to share it amongst your family, it's you can get it down to $5-ish to have ad free. And I do believe YouTube does a service. You can upload videos and post them to the forum and do all of these things, and they just pay for it. And so I do think there is yep, you can have it free and some ads, or you can pay and have no ads. Do I think they're going overboard? I do. Do I think long term it's not a good play for them? I do. I do think that's not a good play for them. But they must have the analytics and they see what they see, and so what I think doesn't matter. But yeah, I do think that, I do think that YouTube is worth something, and I have paid for it for many years. They obviously pay me, but I don't like watching commercials, and I pay other services. I don't want to watch the commercials. I either like it enough where I don't want to watch commercials, or I don't and I won't. Here's a good example. I do have Amazon Prime. and I use it for work and I use it for home. I understand what that means. As in, why would you support them? When they made it additional to not get ads on Prime Video, I just refuse to watch anything Prime ever. Ever. I will not pay more money. I'm already paying them, and that was a service I was already getting. If anything, they have got me this close to like, I just won't have Prime at all anymore. So, and I think that's what YouTube is doing. You go too far, you'll just push people off the platform. And that won't be good for me, won't be good for you guys, won't be good for anybody. But in the meantime, I do think YouTube in general is worth premium. I will let you guys know that if you watch a video of mine and you have premium, it does pay me. That is good. It's not huge amounts. It's like it would be if you watched videos or watch the ads. So I do think they've got a good system and it's relatively fair. I think they're pushing a little hard on the let's choke people out with ad thing. I think that's a little much, but you know, I'm big on how about you do a really good job and make them want premium instead of we'll force you into premium. Like, you know, you can lead with a carrot on a stick or you can beat someone with a stick. I'm always in favor of let's lead with the carrot on the stick. Let's see. Why can't you pick your own commercial or ad? I would watch Dean every 15 minutes. Yeah, we could insert them, but yes, like honestly, YouTube should think about that because they could probably charge me if you could make it cheap, right? And it said like, hey, when someone watched an Aquarium Co-op video, we can show them an ad for a Ford truck. Or for this very small amount of money, like Ford truck for that view was going to pay us half a cent. If for the same half a cent, I can go, well, instead of Ford truck, how about we make it Aquarium Co-op's ad? I would do that. Like they would still get their half a cent or 1/10 of a cent or whatever it is. And I think the fans would rather watch me and Dean be an idiot and be like, hey, you guys should buy this than the Ford truck commercial, I think. And it would be okay because not every single creator has their own products. And then I still think it would even be better for like the people that take sponsored commercials anyway, where you're like, let me tell you about NordVPN. Like, make the company like splice that in where it was going to be the Ford truck commercial, and instead it's the VPN commercial, and the creator or the VPN or whoever like, yep, we're going to make it up. Because that is another thing that I don't like is I don't like channels having way too many ads and then also doing sponsored ads. That's just, you know, some channels do get to a point, not really fish people, by the way. Some channels, though, do get to a point where, like, this is 60% advertisement. And there could be people in the audience right now going, well, that's rich, Corey. How are you not just a walking advertisement for your own crap? No, that's true. But I'm not leading you on of, like, today we're going to look at muscle cars. But now a word from our sponsor and a word from our other sponsor. And then our ad break. And then this ad break. And then a word from our sponsor. And it's all about just random stuff when you're like, I just want to see this car or I just want to see this thing. So anyway, well, we'll get off that rant. We only got a couple minutes left and there could be people with fish questions. Yeah, I often get lulled to sleep listening to streams of my favorite creators when it makes my dreams weird. Or while it makes my dreams weird. I'm glad it runs up the view hours, and I'm just doing my best to support the people. Yeah. I think that's good. What's the secret third thing? I don't know. Will there ever be a self-service fish shop where you catch your own fish and leave via self-checkout? Is this the future? Yeah. It already existed basically in Japan outside of the self-checkout part. Bags already bagged up. And it was all the quick sellers, like 6 neon tetras at a time, 6 Amano shrimp at a time. There is a store in California where when you go, hey, I'd like those rosy barbs, they hand you a net, and they're like, great, go get them. And then when you come back, they ring you up, and the fish are cheaper for that because they have less staff. It's kind of awesome in that yeah, just go get your own fish and it will save you some money. But it also, like, I do wonder, like, do you have enough people to give the advice though? And then not everyone's good at catching fish. You can stress a lot of fish out, but it does exist, and it is interesting. Yeah. Which is the most profitable fish for beginners? Probably guppies and cherry shrimp. I want ads for Aquarium Co-op products during Aquarium Co-op live streams if I must have ads. Yeah, I think that's true. You guys do get that. I am a walking advertisement of, like, we've talked a lot about our products, but that's why I think a lot of you show up. But if they did give me the option of, like, it literally will have to be an ad for, I don't know, that couch, I would rather put an Aquarium Co-op ad, because it more likely that you might be interested in that. You might need a couch too, but 1 out of 1,000 of you might need a couch, where all of you at least have aquariums. Catching hillstream loach isn't easy. You're right. There's a lot of fish that, like, yeah, you gotta have that skill of, like, this is how you do coolie loaches, that's how you do those ones, that's how you do these ones. Yeah. Yep, I'm concerned if customers are catching their own, they might have skin, might have lotion on their skin and stuff like that. Yeah, I for all I know, they make you wash your hands first, and then maybe they run tons of carb in the systems. I don't know. I'm just saying. Someone asked if it exists, and I said, I have seen it. It does exist. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, because I've never run that, so. What are my opinion on storing tanks vertically? I think if it's level ground and you put it, like, on a piece of, like, styrofoam, works out okay. I think a lot of it depends on how long you're storing them. As I'm talking about this, the video gets demonetized. Joke's on you. Already unmonetized. I am worried. I would say that I'm worried that they won't show it to anybody, because it's like, oh, we're not making any money on this guy? Don't show it to anybody. It's not in their best interest. So.
Snow alert. It's snowing.
Snow alert. It is snowing. It is snowing. Snow is happening. Snow alert. Snow alert. Dinner will be done in 10 minutes, I'm told. What was I just talking about? Oh, the ad thing. Yeah, I'm worried it'll, like, I don't want it to, it didn't show up in my feed and all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying, I try to be a good business person, in that YouTube needs to win, I need to win, and you guys need to win. That has always been my motto with anyone I work with. Everybody's got to win. And for many years, I've been doing this for like 10 years now, it has worked that way. They've tipped the scale a little bit into, like, 43 ads in a 2-hour live stream. I would win, YouTube would win, but you guys would not win. And you could tell me about it, and I totally get it. And I think everybody's got to win. I think even you guys know, like, well, sure, YouTube can't exist if they never show an ad, right? Corey can't keep doing this if he never sells a product. And so it's finding that balance. And I think that if one ad happened every 30 minutes, that's 4 ads in 2 hours. I feel like that's pretty fair, right? And I think YouTube would make some money, and I think you guys would be okay with it. Now, some people might, no ads ever. It's like, well, sure, but you don't understand commerce. You know, everybody's got to win for it to be sustainable. So, yeah. I want to see the snow. Maybe if it looks cool, it might be dark out already. If it looks cool, maybe I'll take a picture and I'll show it to so I don't know the answer to that. Is it spam if I take that picture and I show it to everybody? Because then you might have, like, Roy Pixel, who's not a member, and it might be like, I don't want to see this crap. I don't care. It's not about fish, right? And then if I post it to the members, people will be like, you're just leaving us out. You don't show us the stuff. And it's like, honestly, I'm just trying to make people happy. I don't know. And you probably have members who are like, I don't want to see this crap either. It's not about fish. Like, someone asked, I wanted to share. That's all. I'm just trying to live my life. -22 in Alberta. Woo, doggies. I'm not a fan of that. Whenever I go visit Twin City Guppies, I'm always like, you live this way? The wind is howling and it's below 0. I would never leave my house. Like, this is horrible. And I do love snow, but they don't even get the snow. It's all like dirty snow. Like, well, I think it snowed here a couple weeks ago. I'm like, cold without the snow is not worth it. I always want the snow. Have I seen videos with Moist Critical? You should end your videos like that and just say bye. I have seen his videos, but in my brain I don't remember just the bye part. I remember the one earbud. I don't know. I kind of stopped watching him as much because his content really morphed into more like, it became more and more, well, he's always kind of been drama, so I don't know what the right word is, but whatever the topics were, they have now moved in a direction that I care less about. So it is rare that I watch something by him as a creator. I don't know if that's good or bad. Or maybe my tastes have changed. That actually happens way more than we know. And we don't realize that as consumers of content. Most often, the creators are always changing a little bit, but it is far more likely that the customer, the viewer, will change more. So, for instance, my content changes a little bit, but I'm pretty much going to be doing this kind of thing in 5 or 10 years. Where if you're 13 right now and you're watching me, by the time you're 18, like, Corey, you changed so much. Like, no, actually, you've changed. Your interests have changed. That happens a lot too. And so you can definitely have creators like, maybe I'm changing a little bit this way, but you're changing this way, and the divide just grows, right? Could also be that, if you're my age with my interests, like, we're changing in the same way. Like, oh yeah, the person that bought the vacuum. Like, those interests completely different, but like, oh, we're in the right. Yeah, I need a vacuum too, right? So, let's see here. No snow for you. Roy Pixel officially gave me the green light to share pics. Well, it's hard to argue with Roy Pixel. I'll tell you that. Yeah. Twin City Gubby is 38 tonight. Whew. Must have the flip-flops on. I mean, to be fair, I literally have flip-flops on. I know it's snowing. I was in the snow 2 days ago a little bit with the flip-flops. There's a reason my Instagram is flip-flop retirement, which, by the way, I've completely abandoned most social media. I will talk with my other fish nerds, but I have very little faith in a lot of the social media. So, hanging out with my people. I guess I better go. I got snow and I got food to do and I got work and I got to check on the live stream afterwards. Is there a company where I can give them a topic and they carve it out of wood in a way that looks okay to put in an aquarium? I see what you're saying. Not that I know. I'm sure there's someone doing it, but I don't know of them. Yeah, basically I think you're better off to find a 3D printed version. Yeah. There are some like Indonesian companies that will build your vision out of twigs. That's how you get like the dragons and other things. And you're like, oh, but they're $1,200. But yeah. All right. Flip flops in the snow, a madman. Yeah. Well, it's part of it is like, I mean, I'm wearing shorts too. My life pretty much lives at 75 and up degrees. I'm in the fish room or I'm at the store. And so if I bundle up, the minute I get to where I'm going, I'm like, it is 1,000 degrees in here. Like, I have the AC on right now. Well, it's 76 degrees. I've cooled it down to 76. And I've been live streaming, but I guarantee, look at that. That's sweat. That's all sweat. Because for whatever reason, I don't know why, my temperature goes up as I talk nonstop for 2 hours. Where I could sit here and work in a spreadsheet or be in a meeting that's real intense and I won't sweat. And maybe it's the extra light, but my brow is not sweating. So I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, and I don't love public speaking, but I'm not terrified of it either. But I think it's my brain's working so hard. I'm reading chat, making sure I don't say something insane that sinks us, while also entertaining and going, now's the time for the funny voice. Subconsciously, because I don't actually think about that. That's another level of like parsing myself. Now it's time for funny voice. Hydrate. That could be it. I don't drink enough. That could be a very, yeah, maybe I need to drink more cold water. I should test that. Let's add that to the list of things I need to test. I'm now putting Corey armpit sweat testing with drinking more cold water during a live stream above the Dr. Bassler fish food. Yeah. Heat the room, they said. To be fair, Steven, go watch all the live streams when I was in a different room that had no fish tanks, didn't heat the room, same sweat. Not my first sweating rodeo, buddy. All right, I gotta go eat snow soup, I'm told. I'm gonna cool down my soup with snow, take a picture or two. How about those Niners ordered a pizza? And yeah. Dracula needs to sit next to me with a spray bottle. Yeah, except it's gonna be on like the stream setting, so it's like squirting me like I'm a cat. Quit it. Yeah, my wife and I are funnier like that. That's the funnier joke I like. Stop sweating, and then like spray it like it's a cat. Don't do that, or a barking dog. Quit sweating. Not the mist setting that could actually cool me down. Wait, my wife said there's no. Oh yeah, it's not soup tonight. Yeah, we're doing subs. Yeah. All right. I gotta go. I'm being summoned by the snow gods and my wife. So, thanks for hanging out. If you want to do us a giant favor, buy all of our stuff. I will do whatever I can to hold our prices down for as long as I can. If there is tariffs, we'll be seeing if there's anything we can do about Canada. What the people are buying in Canada. We'll try to keep supply high. We are supplied well, so that is good news. And we'll do the best we can. You buy all of our plants and products and support local fish stores as well. They're going to need it also. And stay safe out there. Compliment some people. And keep participating. If you guys participate, I'll keep creating. And maybe we'll be here in another 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Who knows? All right. Oh, and join the forum, by the way. That's where I hang out. Social media a little bit too much for me these days. I hang out in my safe space. That's the forum. You come talk fish, I'll talk fish, and we'll have a good time. We'll see you later. Gotta find the right buttons.